Hey everyone, welcome back to the All Music Matters in That podcast. I'm your host Brian, and joining me today is a rather special guest, hailing from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. That was probably terrible because Saskatchewan. There we go.
That's good.
Jackie Kroczynski. How you doing?
Awesome. Hello. Thanks for having me, Brian.
No worries. And you know what? I think there's something about COVID too because it's starting to affect my language a little bit. And then I also realize I miss some letters whenever I'm texting or typing something in an email at times. So you have to always double check before you send them. So I do apologize if I pronounced it wrong too. But how are you doing?
I'm pretty good. Yeah, pretty good. It's a nice day outside, so I'm happy.
Just to fill everybody in about Jackie here. She's actually a multi-talented artist, also a school teacher, right? You're also...
You bet.
And
Yeah.
she's actually part of some groups as well. And can you tell us a little bit about your group? Is it like named after you, or what's the name of the group?
Yeah, so I'm Jackie K because Kroczynski is a long one, right? And so I just go by Jackie K. And performing wise, I'll go play as a duo, usually with my bass player, who happens to be my husband as well. And the album that I put out in March is like full band. So when we can get gigs as a full band, like that's the best. But of course, money, 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 right? So, and so then, yeah, exactly. So that's myself and my husband, Tom, and then our guitar player, Randy Woods, and tenor sax, Connor Newton. And then we have a couple drummers that whoever is free, Kyle Kryza or Neil Cubbin, that'll come and play. So
That's pretty
all
sweet.
excellent musicians. Yeah, they're great.
I guess how did you and your husband first meet? Was it like way back in like some sort of venue you just happened to meet at?
Well, he was a friend of a friend, and we were living in Saskatoon. We actually don't live in Saskatoon. We live in North Battleford now, which is about an hour and a half away from Saskatoon. But that's where, that's where I grew up, and he grew up just outside of Saskatoon on an acreage by Pike Lake. And but we were always in Saskatoon, and we always hung out at the same bars, like down. I don't know how well you know Saskatoon, but down Broadway there was like Lydia's and Amigos and Buds, and so anyway, we had the same friends, and that's where we hung out, and lots of great music there, and yeah, the story goes on, as they say. So.
Actually, I've never been to Saskatoon. I've actually been to Canada quite a few times, but I've never been to Saskatoon. But there was actually an announcer for the Pittsburgh Pirates. I don't know how familiar you are with the sports in
Oh, well, yes. It's hockey, right?
well, there was an announcer.
Oh, Pirates, you said.
The Pirates, yeah, the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yeah,
And
baseball, yeah.
they had an announcer named Bob Prince. And anytime somebody hit a home run, he'd be like, "That ball's on the new balloon to Saskatoon," that sort of thing. So that's how we at least knew about Saskatoon, to be honest. Otherwise, we would have had no idea unless it was in some sort of travel book that tell you, like, "Hey, we're stopping here for a night," or something like that. And then there's this to see, that sort of thing, too. So other than that, I mean, I couldn't tell you anything about it. So I guess, what can you tell us about Saskatoon? How is it this time of the year?
Saskatoon's beautiful, actually. It's got a really nice river running through it. There's about, I don't know what the population is now. It's probably close to 300,000. And the Sasktel Jazz Festival just finished there about a week and a half ago. And that was like 10 days of great music there. But the riverbank is really kind of home to lots of action, lots of music. And the population of the city, like the kind of the median age of the city, has it's really changed. Like the city's getting younger and younger, which is really good. So there's more kind of creative people, more kind of artistic people, and it seems like things are growing that way in that direction. So more opportunities, I think, for artistic pursuits. Yeah, so it's a good thing.
I want to say some cities in the States are getting like younger. I don't know which ones in particular, but I know they'll talk about Austin, Texas a good bit too.
Right,
So
yeah, I hear about Austin, yeah.
So I'm going to say that one's at least getting a lot younger, so to speak, and it's probably more Democratic as it is Republican or something like that, but that's
right.
Leave that for a different time, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I would like to add Saskatoon to my list at some point too. So
yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, it really is.
But I think it gets overshadowed by Vancouver. Because the last trip I was at Vancouver, went to Jasper, let's see, Lake Louise,
Yeah.
And then it ended in Calgary too. So I think Saskatoon always gets like overshadowed by like the big cities, in Edmonton as well. And then got all of them out east with Toronto. Maybe not Ottawa. I was a little surprised about Ottawa. I thought there'd be a little bit more in Ottawa, but I think that one gets overshadowed by
Yeah, it's
Montreal.
a really political town, and it's kind of like actually I have family visiting me here right now from Quebec, and yeah, Ottawa's different, right? It's a different kind of place, right? And yeah, there's this big gap between sort of like going east to west, right? So between, say, like Winnipeg or even Saskatoon, if to get all the way out to the west coast, like it's just so huge. So for people who are traveling, it's not just like my oldest son Connor, who's actually my sax player. He does a fair bit of touring in the States, and it's like you can just with his band, and it's like you can go from here to there and here to there, and you can stop every night and you can play somewhere. Well, that's a lot harder here, right? Because if you're driving from, say, Winnipeg to Saskatoon, well, that's 10 hours, right? Or 11 hours. And, in January, it's like, that's pretty shitty. It's like, so it makes it harder to do just simply because of the vast landscape. Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate. And then, especially when you are talking about wintertime, especially, it's not just the wind chills, but you get it down in the negatives most of the time. And then it carries on down to the upper parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Montana, those states as well. So, but I do have to ask, did you guys get any fires out your way? Because I think there was some up in the eastern half of Canada, and it seemed to permeate down to like New York and some of the New England states. Did you guys get hit with any?
Yeah, absolutely. We've had lots of fires here. Like we're kind of like in North Battleford here. I'm kind of about an hour and a half northwest of Saskatoon. And there were some fires here sort of a little further north of where I am. But we had some really bad days at the end of June and the beginning of July where it was, just the smoke, like it was just awful, right? It was really bad. And, people in the north, people on reserve, where it was just awful, right? For them, just because they're north. My brother, I have a brother who lives in New York State, and he had been visiting here at the end of May. And actually, it was really smoky then, too, when he was visiting. And then, when he went back home, then they were getting all the smoke down from Quebec and Ontario as well. So, yeah, it's bad. It's bad. Although we've had, too, it's just been weird because we've had a lot of rain, a lot more rain than we've ever had. But we've also had these wild fluctuations of temperature. So it'll be like, 30, 31 Celsius, right? And then tons of rain. It's like, what is this? Like, where am I living? This isn't right, Yeah, it's strange.
Yeah, and actually, it's only the States that seem to use the Fahrenheit, to be honest. Everybody else likes to use the Celsius, so
yeah.
I can imagine, it's pretty hot, that's needless to say. So it's good to see you've been okay. So it's good to see you're also pulling through it. But funny enough, when the smoke got carried down into Pittsburgh,
yeah,
I actually made the bonehead decision of actually taking a walk outside, and that was actually when they were prepping for Furry Con, as they like to call it, when the furries come to town. So I have to admit, it was a little strange, but at the same time, I feel like this probably wasn't a smart idea because I felt a little woozy at times, and I think like, okay, let's just circle on back and get back to the office, that sort of thing. So
yeah, for sure. Like I know when the kids were still in school, like school lets out the end of June, right? The 30th of June. And when the kids were still in school, especially the younger kids, like I know they did cancel some trips and things, for the kids to go outside because it was just like it wasn't safe,
Yeah,
they couldn't breathe. Yeah. So.
But it's at least good to see they're taking nice precautions. So hopefully we start turning a page into a new chapter pretty soon. So.
Oh, let's hope so.
All right. But Jackie, I want to welcome you to my podcast. And the way this works is we're just going to get to know you both as the musician and as the individual, but you can also elaborate on some of the band, including your husband, who's been a part of it for a good while, I guess. We'll get to him in a little bit. But the way it works is we're going to start with the beginning, then get into middle, nitpick here and there, maybe pick up some interesting topics here and there, and wrap it up at some point. So you ready to start with the first one?
Bring it on.
All right. I like the attitude. Let's do it. All right. So I'll start with the first one. Who is Jackie Kroczynski, and how did she become the musician she is right now? Then we can get to the band and maybe elaborate a little bit more than what we were talking about a little bit earlier.
Okay, that's like a really big question. You know that, right? Okay. Well, let's see. You know, I've had kind of a weird way of doing this because, I mean, like many musicians, right, you start playing music when you're a kid, right? Like somebody says, like at my house, it was, you know, my mom and dad saying, okay, it's time to start piano lessons. All right, cool, you know. And that was when I was 4. It's like, we're going to play the piano. Awesome, because that'll be fun. And I really loved doing that. And then when I got into school, and I think it was about grade 5, it was time to start school band, which I loved, and did all through high school. And when I was in high school, I was trying to think like, you know, what am I going to do with my life? And it's like, I'm going to be a lawyer. I think being a lawyer would be like a really great idea. And then I had this kind of little epiphany when I was in 12th grade. I never wanted to be a teacher because my mom was a teacher and she taught primary school, you know, and so she was always like cutting and pasting and stuff. And it's like, that was not up my alley at all. But I had a really great band teacher in high school. And then I had this idea, like in grade 12, it's like, you mean I could teach band? I could teach music all day? Oh, well, that's a good idea. I'm doing that.
Be like, sign me up, that sort of thing.
And so, yeah, so I went to university and got a music education degree and started teaching. And yeah, have been doing that for a long time, like, I don't know, 25 years-ish. Long time. Have taught kindergarten all the way up to grade 12. And right now I'm teaching, like, I teach guitar to grade, you know, like 9, 10, 11, 12 students. And then I teach band and concert band and jazz band to high school students, which is like totally fun. And, you know, then of course, like in between sort of all of that, you know, there's like, you do other stuff kind of here and there, but I also have 4 kids, right? So there was kind of like, I was busy, right, in between. And so I never really had much time to do anything kind of for myself, for my own music. Even though I wanted to, it just wasn't practical in lots of ways. And then it was only really a few years ago, I took my my school band, I took them on a band trip to, actually it was in 2020, I took them on a band trip to Nashville and Memphis. And we flew down there in March. And you think, okay, March 2020, right? We flew down there on the 5th of March in 2020. We went to Memphis for a couple days. And then we took the bus to, and I'd been to Memphis before, but I hadn't been to Nashville. And then we took the bus to Nashville and, you know, we were playing here and there and sightseeing and doing all our stuff. And got on the plane, came home. I think we got home on the, like, well, we went back to school on the 11th of March. And a couple days later, like, that was it. Everything shut down. It was like, oh yeah, we'll be back at school in a couple of weeks. Well, no, we didn't go back at all, right?
It was like the day the world stood still, that sort of thing.
Exactly.
So.
Like, we were so lucky we got home. We were so lucky. But one of the things that we did while we were on that trip was, you know, we played outside the Opry sort of like before a show. And then we went in and saw a show and, you know, it was really great and it was tons of fun. And for me, my dad had passed away like almost exactly a year earlier. And he was, you know, he loved country music, you know, like Hank Snow and Johnny Cash and like, you know, kind of old school country music and really traditional. And he never had gone to the Opry. He had never been to Nashville. And so when I saw that show, I just kept thinking, God, Dad would have loved this. He would have loved this, right? And so we came home, and then I kind of had these 2 weeks before we sort of sorted out the online schooling thing, where everything was kind of upside down. And so it was then where I thought, okay, I'm gonna start writing. I've got to write a song. I got to write the song, you know, for Dad about this night at the Opry that we had. And that was kind of the thing that really sort of made me begin, finally to write and sing for myself. And that, so that wasn't really very long ago. So even though I had all kinds of experience doing all these other things, writing and recording and performing, like, this is, it's a pretty new thing for me in that respect. So that's a very long story for you.
Yeah, man, you gotta do sometimes to make a nice little short story too. But first off, I'm sorry for your loss. And
oh, thanks.
I imagine that trip, I guess, was a little bit more emotional too, especially when you went down with your classes and afterwards, as we said, the world just stopped or stood still, to be honest. And,
yeah, it was strange.
I still remember the date. It was March 15th, 2020. That's actually when I started working from home afterwards. And then afterwards, before you know it, it was 2 years, almost going on 3. And believe it or not, me and my dad and my mom, we actually had gone down to Nashville last year. Yeah. That was actually the first time afterwards we got COVID, believe it or not. Yeah. And me and my dad, we actually got a picture when we visited the Opry, and they were probably for a show. I don't know who was performing that night, but we at least got in the Opry and saw at least some of the major sightseeing spots, maybe outside of maybe where Belmont was, and then other spots here and there that were perhaps huge, or other big studios that were big, influential, to say the least, in terms of like what influenced like all the country music artists like come here and like record and then become big shots later on. So I did not know you went to Memphis though. I think when I was reading your nice little bio here, I think it just said it talked about Nashville, but I guess when'd you go to Memphis? And then I guess elaborate on that story a little bit there. I guess were you guys just trying to take in like what's going on with like the blues scene in Memphis there?
Well, yeah, it was just like with the prior to that, like my husband and my kids and myself, like we love New Orleans. Like that's my favorite place in the world. And I'm actually going next week again. And I haven't been there since before COVID. And I think it was maybe 2015, we drove down there. We followed the Great River Road, and we drove from here, North Battleford, to Lake Itasca in Minnesota, where the headwaters of the Mississippi are. So then we stuck our feet in the headwaters of the Mississippi, and we followed the Great River Road all the way down. And, we stopped at a whole bunch of places, including in Memphis. We stopped in Memphis. And, we stayed in this really cheesy kind of motel with like this guitar-shaped pool, of course, like Elvis blaring all over that. It was totally fun, and went to Stax Records, and, it was great, and went to this Uncle Lou's fried chicken. It was like the best food, with your big thing of red Kool-Aid, and it was great. And Graceland, of course, we went to Graceland. So, and then, went down to, now I can't think, Natchez, and then drove down into New Orleans, and then spent a week there, and then drove up through the Great Plains back home. So when I was planning this trip for my students, it's like, that we figured it out so that we could fly into Memphis and fly out of Nashville. So when we flew into Memphis, we were only there like a couple days, but then, we went and played, and Graceland had changed a whole bunch, but, the kids were super excited about that. So they could, we just kind of played outside, and then we toured all through Graceland, and we went down Beale Street. We went to the Museum of Civil Rights, and, it was just cool for them to see, because some of them have not traveled very much at all. So yeah, it was a good experience, I think, for them. And then, like I say, when we were coming home and we're sitting in the Toronto airport waiting to make our connection, and we're looking at all these planes coming in from all over, and we're hearing about this COVID thing, and it's like me, the teacher, I'm thinking, my God, what should I be doing? What should I be doing? So I went and bought all these like antibacterial wipes. It's like, okay, guys, clean your phones. Everybody clean your phones. I don't know what to do, but we can't get sick. So just stay clean. Keep cleaning. I don't know. So, yeah.
I would say,
yeah.
the zombie apocalypse is upon you, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
So,
well, it was like really the great unknown. It's like, who knows what this is, right? And it's like, I'm responsible for all these students, but yeah, I mean, we were all fine. We were very fortunate though that we got home when we did. But Memphis, love Memphis. Want to go back.
you know what? I actually kind of wish we did go this year, but we're actually doing a nice little trip, more towards Saratoga, and then also seeing like some of the eastern half of Canada. But that's
nice.
that's a little further on this year though too. So
Oh, right on.
actually, I look forward to do some travel vlogs later on at some point. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But Memphis, I think, would be an interesting one. And obviously, you think of Nashville as like country music, and then Memphis is all the blues, same with the barbecue and all that stuff too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, good food.
And New Orleans, I guess. Did you try the Hurricanes when you were there?
Oh, of course. At Pat O'Brien's, yes,
Pat
of
O'Brien's,
course. Yeah. So New Orleans, I don't know what it is. I think the first time I went, I think I've been there 9 times now. And the first time I went was in 2011, which, wasn't too long after Hurricane Katrina. And things were still sort of, rebuilding, right? Like that was fairly early on, right? And every time we've gone back since, there's been, more people and more people and more people and more people. So yeah, we're going back. And I think we're going to fry because it's going to be really hot.
Yeah, I think that's why it's always best to do like Louisiana and Florida, like in the winter times. But I think
It's
ironically,
harder. When you're a teacher, it's easier to go in the summer.
well, because school's out. And we blast the Alice Cooper song, "School's Out."
Yeah.
That sort of thing. So I think when I was there, it was definitely more during the wintertime because I had a family member who had lived down there. And it was about an hour outside New Orleans. But when we went down and partied on Bourbon Street, it was light. It was lighter crowds. It was still a good amount of people, but it was like not as packed as what it would be for like Mardi Gras, per se.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm thinking like, I don't know if I would want to be here if this is Mardi Gras. Because I think it would be jam-packed. You're probably going to run into people doing a lot of crazy things. And maybe some things you're not supposed to be seeing, that sort of thing. Yeah. So I think we got it at the right time. So interesting trips, needless to say. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
But there was a whole lot we did talk about in there. But let's first talk about the band. Then we'll get into like music teaching, and then afterwards we can jump back into COVID again. So
sure.
So this band is actually your first that you've been a part of? Were you part of like any groups before then?
Well, yeah. I've played with bands here and there, we had like a brass band because I played trumpet. So we had like a brass band that we, would play with kind of here and there wherever we could get a gig, Jive and Jackie and Big Baby T. And so we played like some New Orleans brass band tunes, stuff like we try and emulate like the Soul Rebels and that kind of stuff. My husband would pick up the sousaphone and he'd play that. And so we always had fun with that. But for us, it was like we'd work really hard for a gig and play. And then you do the gig and then we wouldn't have another one again for a year, right? So it's like, okay, whatever. We also played lots of Irish music. So it's the same thing. Every St. Patrick's Day, you bet. Yeah, we'll have a gig. We'll do that. We used to, when our kids were young, we'd have a house party every year and we'd play St. Patrick's, traditional music for that. When my husband was younger, he played in a traditional Irish music band with his brother, who was an Irish fiddler, and the band was Shimsa. And then, so he kind of brought that tradition to our house. And so our 2 older boys, especially, grew up playing that music. So we do that. And so this was, kind of more, before I started writing my own stuff. And then what else do we have? Like the Pigeon Hotel brass band. We played that, so just kind of like whatever, but there was sort of not original music. It was just kind of whatever needed to be done, we'd just play it, right? So
I should ask, do you have Irish descent in you? Because I would imagine the last name kind of gives away like Eastern European, or I think most people would say Polish, to be honest.
Yeah, it was Polish. My husband's family is Polish. Irish, yeah, and yeah, I have Irish in my roots for sure, and actually my husband Tom does as well. We actually went and played a showcase this year in Ireland at the end of January.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Which was great fun. Yeah, except it was at the end of January. So it was colder there than it was here. And it was just, it was a totally different thing for me, because here, it was like whatever, minus 35 Celsius and, 4 feet of snow. And that's not a big deal. But there, it was like, there was no snow, and I froze my butt off because it was so, like, it just, like, you couldn't escape it, it was just, like, right in your bones and humid, and, I was cold the whole time. And I think, too, just the central heating is different. Like, things aren't heated the same way, like, we got furnaces blasting all the time, and there, we had, like, a little radiator in the hotel room, and it didn't really put out much heat, and just different.
I don't know, they're dragging behind the times, I guess, as we like to say.
It was just but it was great. I want to go back.
Was that in Dublin, or was that in a different Irish town?
Monaghan. So it was like about 10 miles from the Northern Ireland border.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I guess outside of the cold, how was Ireland, to be honest? They ran into too many guys getting drunk?
No, just the usual amount. It was fun. It was
that's
really
a stereotype
fun.
when they think of Irish people, to be honest. So
no, it was really fun. People were kind and welcoming, and it was called Your Roots Are Showing, was a conference that we went to, and so there was people there playing from. There was only a couple of Americans. There was maybe 8 or 9 Canadians. And there was lots of Irish musicians and European musicians as well. So it was really cool because you got to meet all these people from all over the place, and go watch them perform and just hang out. And then, of course, all kinds of industry people as well. So
I think a funny thing in terms of latitude and longitude, I think if you were to start at Winnipeg and just go straight across without breaking a path or anything like that, you would end up in Paris at some point.
Right.
So I think that's why it was a lot colder in Ireland, because it was just slightly above where that latitude longitude line was. So I can see what you mean. But that's an interesting trip. That's pretty cool. And I guess in terms of being a singer-songwriter, I guess, so what sort of challenges do you face when trying to make your own music?
I don't know.
You get like a little writer's block whenever you try forming the lyrics and try to bring it together with like the chords and piano and everything?
Well, I find that it's really good because I'm most comfortable, guitar and piano. Piano for sure, I feel most comfortable on. But depending on what I write on, it depends what I want to do with it. Usually for me, everybody's process is different, right? But usually for me, I start with lyrics. And as I'm writing the lyrics, I start to hear the melody as the lyrics go down on the piece of paper. So I try and just like write. And I can kind of hear what it's going to sound like or what I want it to sound like. And then I have to go to an instrument after and then kind of go back and mesh them together. Is sort of how I do things. And, as I'm sort of writing the lyrics down, I know if it's going to be like a piano thing or if it's going to be a guitar thing. I can sort of, I'll know what I want as I'm doing it.
I was going to ask, did you play any strings at a young age, like the violin, cello, or any of those kind of strings?
No, but when I was in university, we had to take like techniques classes, right? Like for teaching. So, like how to teach all the woodwind instruments and how to teach all the brass instruments. And so we had to take a string techniques class. So, we had to learn how to play like violin, viola, bass, and cello. And I was really bad at it. I was really bad at it because it's hard. B, you need to start when you're young. So, however old I was then, like 20 or whatever. And it's like, I can't get a good bowing position in my hand, this is difficult. So I have nieces and nephews that play, and they started when they were young, and they're really good. And I have deep respect for how good they are, because I know it's really hard.
Well, I know you mentioned about the piano earlier, especially when it was at a young age. So I know that's why you were comfortable with piano.
Yeah.
All throughout your later years and then up to this point. I didn't actually know if they wanted you to try multiple instruments, or whether it was just like try process of elimination, be like, is she comfortable just sticking with piano, or does she want to try like a different instrument? Let's try that sort of thing. So I wasn't sure if that was something. I don't know if I would actually hope that's good parenting too, because I'm actually still trying to learn how to be a good parent as well.
Oh,
especially when you got 4 kids as well. So
yeah, it's a balance. No, piano, I think, and all our kids play the piano. I think piano is just like a really good foundational instrument. It's like, and even when I'm teaching at school, it's like lots of times I'll even, and for kids who maybe they don't have much of a background, or sometimes guitar, like when I teach guitar is a little more confusing in terms of the layout of the fretboard. But when you draw the keyboard, when you see the keyboard, it's like, here's how all the notes line up. It's like the piano's nice because you can see it all. It's all right there in front of you, right? And it kind of makes sense. It's like, here's the low and here's the high. And sometimes the guitar, especially for new musicians, it doesn't make sense. It's like I'm putting all my fingers, especially when you start down in first position, it's like I'm putting all my fingers way down here, but like what's this bit do up here? And that's why I think piano is really great. I mean, it's great for a whole bunch of reasons, but that's one of them, just because you can see everything.
I think it's because you're able to like do like a bass pattern with like your right hand, and then maybe something different, more of a high pitch, sort of in the treble, so to speak, with your left hand. So I can see what you mean like that. So you're able to have an extensive sort of background when it comes to music too. So you're able to do 2 patterns at once, if I'm saying it right. Otherwise, I'm not very good with piano, to be honest. So am I at least saying it along the same lines?
Bass on the left and your melody or anything else on the right. So your bass is in your left hand. Yeah.
Oh, vice versa then. Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, piano's the best.
I can see why.
When I had this piano teacher too, actually, I just dug this book out the other day. I started when I was a kid with this neighbor down the street, this really nice lady. And later on, I tried taking like RCM, the Royal Conservatory, and I hated it, honestly. And then I took piano lessons from this. He was kind of an older man. Well, he was. And he played at the local bar. And he taught my brother and I piano lessons. And what he did is he took like, popular music, and he made a lead sheet for, each tune. And but in those days, he had to handwrite them all. And he had a purple, like, Gestetner machine, so he had to photocopy them by, like, cranking it out. And he copied them all onto colored paper. And so you'd go to your lessons and you'd, play your music or whatever. And he'd have the chord symbols written above. And then it would say at the bottom, you're going to play this one like a Latin tune, or you're going to play it like a swing, or you're going to play it like a ragtime tune. And it would be, maybe you're going to get the theme from Star Wars, or you're going to get the, the Riverside Rag, or you're going to, so it was all kind of this whole big catalog of music that he had. And when I think about it now, what a ton of work it was, because he had it all in his head, right, because of his job just playing, right? But to go and write that down would have been difficult. So, and I still have it all.
So. Oh, that's a pretty interesting story. So it's actually kind of, you always like to say it's a small world after all, especially when you start getting to interact with like even your neighbors too, and then be like, hey, I can easily help them out right here and like teach them this sort of things like this and that too.
Yeah.
But I guess in terms of teaching, because you did mention earlier that it seemed like an epiphany that's happened to strike you during your senior year.
Yeah.
Did you have any struggles when you initially started off and be like, I don't know, did I make the right choice? That sort of mentality when you first started off trying to do music? and as well as like become a teacher?
Did I have any struggles teaching or doing music?
Let's do a little bit of both.
Well, teaching's hard. Teaching's really hard. Yeah, it's hard work. And it takes years to go from a teacher who, because I think 99.9% of young teachers, when they start, they go into their classroom and they're teacher centered, right? It's like, am I doing this right? Am I well planned? Do I have everything in place? It's all about what they're doing to make things run efficiently, right? So they're thinking about what they need to do, which, makes sense. And it's it takes a long time to be able to kind of move from being teacher-centered to student-centered, where instead of having to think about what I'm doing, thinking about what can I do for you. And because you have to have all of your shit in place before you can help everybody else. And that takes a long time. And the kids, if you don't have your stuff in place, they know. It's like, yeah.
They'll call you out for it too.
Yeah, they'll come for you. And I think music-wise, I don't know. I think every time I go and play somewhere, like I just had a gig the other night, and I find it difficult to walk away and still think, oh, that was really good. That was really good. And I think, because I always think, oh, I should have done this, or I could have done this. And I think that that's something that many musicians, many people who work in the arts,
you end up becoming your worst critic, that sort of thing, yeah.
Because it immediately, right, as soon as you're done, you're analyzing your own performance, right? And the good part of that is it helps you to improve, but the bad part of that is it never kind of lets you enjoy the things that you've just done. So it's trying to strike this balance between, like, let's enjoy the moment. Let's, have some fun because, like, that was really awesome. And, it's like, oh, shit, I should have, right? So, yeah. I got to work on that.
I was like, watch your language right balance there. It's a family-friendly podcast, that sort of thing.
Oh, sorry.
No,
sorry.
No, that's good entertainment value, too. Let's just say we put this on HBO, that sort of thing. You have to have all the dirty sort of TV shows that have all those sorts of profanity on it as well. But you're good,
yes.
You're good. I guess I did kind of reword that question a little bit because it seemed like, for me in particular, I had like a little epiphany near my end of high school. I wanted to go into criminal justice.
Yeah.
I was thinking a police officer, which kind of threw my mom into a little bit of like, oh my God, what are you doing, Brian?
Yeah.
That sort of thing. But then it changed in college for me, and then I ended up going into business. But then even after that, I found out about YouTubing and podcasting, that sort of thing. So I didn't know if you had like some sort of change, like what we could call like a re-epiphany, that sort of thing. Like you had another epiphany thinking like, oh, this is probably my calling right here. So I don't know, did you have something similar like that? Or you wanted to like maybe change majors, but be like, just wait, let's stick it out here in music and see what happens. Did you have anything like that?
No, I think it's taken me a long time. It's taken me, like, I'm kind of like the slow starter. Despite all like this time that I've spent, like really my whole life working on music, it's taken me a long time to get going. And I think that in a way, it's funny. I think you either have to be young, like I have a 17-year-old and he's a great musician and he's just kind of going for it. And so you either have to be young and not care and just like do your thing, or you have to be like older like I am and kind of think, well, why not? I don't care anymore. I'm just going to do it. And somewhere there's that place in between where it's difficult because you're trying to juggle too many things and you have lots of responsibilities. And yeah, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard. And so I kind of think right now, like I've always wanted to do this. Why did I wait so long? Why am I waiting so long? Yes, this is all I've ever wanted to do is play music. It's time. Let's go.
Let's quit dilly-dallying, that sort of thing. So
yeah, like it's always been music, right? But just in various forms here, there, and everywhere. So
that's very good to hear. But I guess let's jump into the hard topic, which was COVID, because I guess let's start off first with like the teaching wise. I guess what did you guys have to do, and then talk about how it affected you personally, and then also your family and friends.
Well, yeah. So we came back from that band trip, and yeah, went to school. I think for maybe a couple days after that, and then that was it. They shut everything down. I think they gave us a week as teachers and students, maybe a week. It might have been 2. I can't remember, because they needed time to sort out what was going to happen next, and nobody knew how long it was going to last, of course, and all those kinds of things. And then it was, okay, we're going online. And of course, as teachers, teachers had varying degrees of experience with going online with students and school and everything else. And then there was also this question of how are we going to hold students accountable for their work and their attendance and all of those kinds of things. And, like say for me as a band teacher, how are we going to do band online? Because that doesn't work, right? That's really hard. So how are we going to do band online? So then it kind of means like scrambling to find all these other things to do to kind of fill the space really quickly. And, kids are really great. But it was really hard. And my husband's a teacher as well. And so he was doing that too. And of course, our 2 youngest kids were in school. And so that was hard. So all day, we'd all be sitting on the computer talking to whomever, and then you have kids who, they don't turn on their video and they don't turn on their audio, and then they disappear, and then there's dogs barking in the background, and it was exhausting. It was really exhausting. And in the meantime, people are getting sick, right? So, yeah. And so that went till the end of June. And I think with that, there was lots of learning did not happen. And so when students came back in September, there was a real deficit of learning. So, if they say they were, partway through their second term in grade 10 and they were supposed to start grade 11, well, they hadn't really completed all of their grade 10 work, right? So what that meant for those teachers, for all teachers, is like, okay, we have to backtrack and we have to go back and try and catch up. And everybody is operating at a deficit. Kids are still operating at a deficit because of COVID. And not just academically, they're operating at a deficit socially, They're still not where they should be. Particularly, I see that in grades 8 and 9. Because, whatever they would have been, grade 4, 5, 6, they're really immature. Yeah. Mm. That was hard.
Yeah, they didn't get the social skills or anything else that had to come with it when they were going through the puberty sort of stages as well. So,
yeah.
I did interview a good number of people out of UK when they talk about how they also had to do Skype or whatever, Zoom or whatever.
Yeah.
They try to do it through those. And of course, it's not working because you can't hear a teacher saying okay, cut, that sort of thing. Or what the instruction should be or how the teacher is supposed to receive it, whether you're playing the notes right or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I could see why, and also why it was tough as well. I guess, is your province, have they loosened their restrictions a good bit, or is there still a little bit some left?
No, there haven't really. I'm just trying to remember. There haven't been. Last September, we didn't come back with any masking restrictions in place last September when we came back to school, because nobody was using any masks last summer, right? And so we didn't come back with anything. So no, there's nothing here anymore.
No. I'd say I think it started at least go downwards in 2021 when the majority were not just wearing masks anymore.
Yeah.
So I can see. That's good to hear. And did you and your husband have any brushes with it, or were you guys pretty much good?
Yeah, no, twice I had it. I got COVID at the beginning of this school year in September. Of course, as soon as you go back to school, teachers and students too, you get sick as soon as you're in the building with a bunch of people. And then I had COVID again in May this year.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And you were you around like a lot of people? I guess, were you guys doing like any sort of touring locally, or were you just...
Nope, that was just from being here. And I've had all my vaccinations and But, September I was pretty sick, but May I wasn't so bad. But
yeah, I would say I was a little bit more fatigued if anything, but it did feel mostly like a cold, to be honest, for me. I don't know, were you mostly fatigued, or did you have like any other symptoms?
Yeah, I can't remember. September, though, September was like not leave bed for a few days. And then it was kind of like it hit hard, like boom. It was like I was fine. Oh, yeah, that's what it was. I was at a meeting one night, and then the next morning I was okay. And then by like 3:00 in the afternoon, I was just like done. Couldn't move, right? Like it just like, what do you mean? I was fine 24 hours ago. Like I was fine. And in May, I just felt like I was getting a cold. And I had a band concert. That's what it was. No. Yeah. And so I went and did the band concert, and I felt awful. And I thought, I don't know how I'm going to do this. You're standing up at the front, you're conducting away. And I thought, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And then I got home and I thought, okay, you better take a test. Oh, yeah.
I would say that's when the adrenaline kicks in, and then you go into auto drive or autopilot.
Yeah. But I remember standing there thinking, I don't think I can stand here any longer.
Well, that's good to hear you made it through. And
Yeah.
Props to you and your husband for making it through too. It's good to have you along for this journey, Jackie.
Yeah.
So let's see. I guess let's talk about influences first, because the way your hair looks too. Did you really go for the Reba McEntire sort of look?
I don't listen to Reba McEntire. No.
No?
No.
I was going to say, it definitely had the same color, but I guess that's the natural born color.
No, it's just red. It used to be blonde. It's like I got bored of that. I've had kind of like, it was red maybe in the 90s for a while, and then blonde, and then... Anyway, it's been red for a few years now. What color is it really? I don't know.
All I know is that I like it. That's everything, so...
Influences?
Yeah.
Wow. That, I don't know. I like a lot of everything. I've always liked, since I was a kid, always loved music from the 60s, right? All the big ones. Of course, the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and Jefferson Airplane and, all that stuff. And of course, that's what I listened to when I was in high school, and everybody else was listening to, the Cars. It's like, ooh, no, no.
I guess you're just what I needed. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, and I love jazz. I've always listened to jazz. And I've always played in, jazz bands, played piano in the jazz band and played trumpet in the jazz band. And I love jazz a lot, in all kinds of different kinds of jazz, like the New Orleans jazz. And I was just reading another thing about Bill Evans this morning, the piano player. And one of my husband and I, we used to listen to many years ago, this Bill Evans, Tony Bennett album. It's just a duet album. And of course, with Tony Bennett just dying, I was thinking about that. And that one was recorded in 75, but Bill Evans, just such a great piano player. My oldest son he's a saxophone player, and he went to school for a few years to study jazz, to play jazz. Like, he's a really good jazz player. But yeah, we just, love it. Love it, love it. So there's, some of the stuff I write, there's some more of that influence in there. Like lots of extensions on chords and, just different sounds, I like that a lot. And then of course, like folk music, stories. I like stories in songs, I like the way that a song can represent a person, or the story of a person or a situation, so the lyrics are really important. And I think that, the way I like to write things, that the music needs to be representative of the story that's being told. So, I don't know. There's lots of stuff I like. There's not a lot I don't like. There's some things, of course, where it's just like, no, but yeah.
Big X. No, that sort of thing. Okay, so that's what you mean.
Yeah.
But, rest in peace to Tony Bennett. Actually, I did see the article yesterday. It talked about it too. Actually, I was surprised it was almost late 90s. I think they said 96.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he was just shy. I think he was going to turn 97 in a few weeks even. Like, That's amazing. Wow, that's pretty old.
Yeah, I mean, he powered through it all, so it's good to see.
Yep.
That's behind a great career too. So, at the same time, I've heard of the name Tony Bennett, but I never really got into his music, unfortunately, because I was always more into the rock and then later sort of metal sort of music too. So now I feel kind of bad. So I think my dad's gonna have to probably introduce him, make a big playlist all together so he can play it through Alexa, through our sound system and everything too. So,
well, he wasn't a writer. He didn't write his own stuff. He, he did well. I guess he called the Great American Songbook, right? But so he was an interpreter of music, right? And I don't know. Yeah, his voice, is it my cup of tea? Nah, not really. But I think there's something to be said for the longevity of a career like that, right? And also for his desire to kind of collaborate with so many different people, I think is really interesting. And it's a really cool way to kind of introduce yourself to new audiences over and over again with that, with collaboration. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I see in collaborations a little bit more so with blues. I know there's maybe some bits here and there within rap, metal, and all other genres as well, but I think blues, because I know a couple I've interviewed in and around Pittsburgh, Billy Price and Jimmy Adler, they've collaborated a couple times, and they've collaborated with quite a few other musicians as well. So I would agree. Yeah, it definitely helps.
Yeah.
Definitely helps in terms of career-wise, and then also with expanding the horizons, so to speak. So
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it does.
But let's see. I guess what advice would you give to up-and-coming musicians as well as even your own students? Would you, apart from saying don't give up, that sort of thing, and just be follow the beat, that sort of thing? I guess what other advice could you give them?
Well, one thing that I find with my students, and I think, although it's different now, I didn't know that being a musician was an option. I didn't know that that was something you could do for a job. And my parents were always you got to go to school, you have to go to university, blah, blah, blah. And, well, okay, that's fine. But and if it's not being a musician, it's how can I work in music, or how can I work in the arts? If you're not the musician, what are some other things you can do? So how can you work in that industry to promote the arts, or talk to musicians, or write music, or work in sound, or work in a venue, or what are some other jobs that you can do around music, even if you're not the one playing, And I think, when I have that discussion with my students, it's because they're young too, like they haven't been out to a bar or anything. They don't, like, they've never heard of this stuff before. Like being a sound person, like, really? Yeah, it's like that. And I'm telling them that's in demand. We need like people who are out there who really know how to do sound and who are really good at that and who can get trained in that. And, you go mentor and like work with somebody. Oh, and you get paid for that? Yeah, you do. And so I think that just understanding that there are lots of possibilities out there, that they need to be told. So
I guess the reason I kind of brought up some of those topics earlier was because you want to try to avoid having the same like cliche sort of things, those sort of things like don't give up, that sort of thing, and then find something that really speaks to you in a way. But definitely thinking about all the advice you definitely give to your students as well. But it's also funny these days with college and everything too, because that's what our parents taught us. It was like, you go to college, you get the nice bachelor's, you're able then to pursue whichever passion you want afterwards. Have fun with it. Then it's almost like, pick and choose, do that for 40 years, then afterwards retire and live a good rest of your life, that sort of thing. But now it seems like people want to move away from college, going to universities and stuff like that too, because, I don't know, maybe they hear something, some people on like a YouTuber or anything like that, say like, no, college is just not worth it anymore, or because you might end up in debt, that sort of thing. So I think that's why students get dissuaded from not going to universities and stuff like that too. I guess, have you encountered students like that who say like, I'm not too sure about that, I think I'm just, after high school, I'm just going to roll with this and that. Did you encounter any students like that yet?
Oh, lots. And they like, always like the second part of grade 12, especially when I'm talking to students that maybe I haven't seen in the last year, I've taught them, but maybe not this past year. I always kind of want to know what they're going to do next year, but I don't want to ask them because, that's a tough question, right? And I think, who knows what they want to do with the rest of their life when they're 18? Like, not a lot of people, right? And fair enough. Why do you need to know what you're going to do with the rest of your life when you're 18? You don't. But you need to do something, get a job or, I don't know. But like, I'm thinking of my own kids, right? You're not going to just sit on the couch all day, but you got to do something, because something is going to lead you to the next thing, whatever that is, right? But yeah, I don't know. And lots of them, it takes time for them to, especially living in a small place like we live in, like the Battlefords here, there's about 20,000 people with 7, and then there's 7 reserves that surround the area. And so lots of people here haven't gone. Sometimes I think it takes them leaving and going somewhere else to see that there are other possibilities. It's like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. Okay, well, I'm interested in doing something like that. So I don't know. Yeah, they need space sometimes to figure out what they want to do. I don't know. Did that answer your question?
I would say yeah, because I know it's a broad topic, but I think one you probably could add, this is a question also directed to you as well, is like, what do you love most about music? Is that something you try to ask them, or is that something new?
I think sometimes, and it could be a COVID thing. I'm thinking about the class that I recently had of grade 10 and 11 students. I think some of them would find that a difficult question to articulate an answer for. But, what I see in lots of them is that music gives them a place to find out who they are. And music gives them a place to make connections to other people who like the same things that they do, right? So it's kind of like a little collection place. It's like, and for most of them, You know, it's there because it makes them feel good, right? It's something that it gives them some comfort in one way or another. Yeah. It just makes them feel more like themselves. So.
You say the same thing about you?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like if I didn't have that, I don't know what I would do, because that, like, I wouldn't know what to do with the rest of my day. Like I wouldn't want to clean.
Couldn't be the flight attendant either.
Oh man. Yeah. I don't know what I'd do.
That's good to hear. I would say music, sometimes it's definitely something to let your emotions out, or maybe there's a certain little dark past you're kind of hiding. You just express it in like lyrics, for instance. Because I think your lyrics too, you kind of dealt with that little folk side to it, where you're telling little stories about this and that, maybe about a person's struggles and that as well. So I guess that's what inspires you to write your lyrics.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like on the album that I put out in March, like there's 10 songs on there, and they're kind of all over the place. It's folk, right? But there's different kind of things. And again, it's because the music kind of goes back to the story, right? And so I guess there's really, there's 2 or 3 that are really autobiographical. The rest are not. So for example, there's one, When You Almost Didn't Love Me. It's the first song off the album. And it's kind of like a real doo-wop bouncy song. And, but that's about my husband. That's about the beginning of our relationship together. And, so that for me, like that's a personal song, right? Same with, Sleep, which is the last one on the album. It's like, I can't sleep. I'm a terrible sleeper. Right. And so those are both personal songs for me. And same with, there's one more, Ready to Be Alone, which is because I was married before. And so that's like about the end of my first marriage. So those 3 are about me. None of the other ones are about me. There's lots of them are just kind of not stupid, but silly. Like there's one, Madam Sun. And when we went to Mexico a couple of years ago, there was this woman, she was walking around. And the first time I saw her, she was older. She was probably in her 70s. And she had on a bikini and she had a drink in one hand and she was pulling her deck chair across the concrete, to get it into the sun. And okay, you are now Madam Sun, lady. That is who you are. And she was having the best time. It was like everywhere I went, I saw her. She was having a drink. She was, always kind of dressed. And yeah, so that's who I wrote that one about. And then there's a song there. It's called Sister of Stone. And I wrote that one about my dad's family had 12 kids. And that one was about my aunt, who I never met because she was the first child, and she was born in 1918, and she died in 1940, and they lived on a farm probably about 30 kilometers outside of Saskatoon. And my grandpa was a Mennonite preacher and very strict, right? And when she had her child, she died in childbirth, and her younger sisters made her a tombstone out of rocks, and like they made this concrete. And my uncle had told me about it. And then last summer I drove out to find the cemetery, and it was just like this little prairie cemetery, and it was everything kind of fallen down. And I found it, and I couldn't read it anymore. But if you ran your fingers over it, like I knew which one it was. So I wrote that one for her. So there's just like bits and bobs of things all over, but they're all kind of about women in one way or another.
I'm gonna say inspiration seems to comes in sometimes the oddest of places when you think about it. And, other times it just pops in your head, or you just happen to see something that. Be like, oh, that could probably be written in a song, that sort of thing too. So,
yeah, for sure.
That's pretty cool, and that is a powerful story as well. And your album's done pretty well. I guess your page said you garnered critical acclaim. I guess critics are really praising your music.
Yeah, it's doing pretty good. Yeah, I'm pretty pleased with it. There's a song on there I wrote too. Oh, I guess I lied. This was about me, but not really. I'm releasing a music video on the 18th of August for the song I'm the Queen. And I mean, that one's just funny. But it's kind of about Queen Elizabeth, but kind of about me after she died last September there. And, there was this kind of mourning period, I guess, I think of about a week or 10 days. And during that time, it was about, as her body traveled from wherever it was, Scotland down to London. And I'm sitting at home and I'm thinking, yeah, I'm a lot like Queen Elizabeth. We're kind of the same, right? It's like, I have a house, like I've got, this is my kingdom right here.
This is my humble domain, that sort of thing. So,
exactly.
Instead of humble abode, we just say humble domain, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
so.
It's a lot smaller. I've got my people here, kind of, that listen to me. I've sort of got a crown, not really. But anyway, so that's what that song was about, comparing my kingdom to her kingdom. So we went to this, I got a grant to make this video, and we went to Regina, and there's this place there called Stonehall Castle. And I had never honestly heard of it before. And it's literally this castle that was built in the late 1800s by this guy who had too much money. And he built it for his wife because she was scared of tornadoes. And so they lived there, and then he died, and then the wife lived there alone. And then after she passed away, it got sold and became a funeral parlor. And it was a funeral parlor for like 30 years. And of course, it all got changed on the inside. And then this professional hockey player from Germany bought it, I think about 15 years ago, and spent millions taking it, like it's all got like period furniture, and like it's kind of bizarre inside, honestly. It's all candles, like it's all candlelit and animal skins. And anyway, so we filmed it there.
Oh, so that's where it was.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, it's either that or a lot of green screens just to kind of make it look like something. So
No, that's where it was. It was, it's really like that.
That's good to hear. And congratulations on your success there. So
thank you.
Looking forward to see it. And you said August 18th. That's when that.
You bet.
All right.
Yeah.
I guess, so you're going to put that on YouTube, or where are you going to post that video
Yeah,
at?
Cups and Cakes blog out of Edmonton. They're going to do a premiere for it. And of course, it'll be on YouTube. I'll put it everywhere. I'm going to do some advertising when I get back from New Orleans.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
And I guess, have you guys traveled to the States and all in and around Canada, or are you kind of just stuck locally?
The music?
Yeah, your
the
music.
band?
Yeah, the band.
No, we haven't done a lot of traveling, and I want to. I'm kind of, it's tough to know. It's one of these things that I'm learning. I don't know how to get this going, honestly. And so we're going to try and go out here in the fall, just head out to, into Alberta, just Calgary, Edmonton, Red Deer, Lethbridge, do like 4 nights, and then hopefully the next weekend do another weekend and see how that goes. It's tough to get everybody schedule together.
Yeah, because they all got their own little jobs and hobbies as well.
Yeah, and it's hard for us to get away from school. So even taking a Friday off is really hard. So we're going to see what we can do. But that's kind of a goal to get that done. Because I know, we just got to go out there and play, right? We just have to do it. So that's what I really want to do.
I would say I dare you guys to actually dress up like you're Alice Cooper, and then when the bus pulls up, just start singing the "School's Out" song. There actually was a group of dads who actually did that. I'm curious.
Oh, really?
I'm curious if their kids were like, "Oh my gosh," that sort of thing. Like, "Oh, please no."
I'm so embarrassed.
I'm so embarrassed.
Oh my god.
So, I mean, I was dying. I mean, that was pretty funny to say the least. Hopefully, it was on the last day of school before summer finally broke out.
I would hope so.
Yeah. But I would say that would make an excellent Instagram story, or I guess whatever you want to post on social media. So.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we got this one more question, then we got some fun questions right here. So I guess just talk about the gear. What gear do you guys use?
Well, what do I use? Let's start. I'm downstairs in my basement. I'm thinking what's upstairs. Actually, I had always played the same piano that my parents had when I was a kid, and then pianos are expensive, like good pianos.
Do tell.
Last summer, I got a new piano. But it's not a new piano. It's a piano from 1890. And I had it stored, and a guy in Edmonton, a piano guy, refinished all of the insides for me. So new hammers, new felts. There were a couple missing, like all the keys are ivory. I didn't kill the elephants. They were already there. So we replaced the keys, like everything. And it's this big, beautiful piano, and I love it. So I got a new piano last year, so I'm pretty excited about that. My husband has this really cool bass, actually. It's a Fender Performer bass that whenever he pulls it out, somebody's like, "What's that bass, man? That bass is like really cool." But he's had it since, like 1989. But I guess it's quite rare. So guitar-wise, I actually just went and rented a new guitar the other day. I'd been playing. Do I have it here? No. I'd been playing a Seagull acoustic from Quebec, which is beautiful, but I have an injured shoulder, so it was like hurting. So I just went and rented this. What is this? It's a really nice little Taylor here. The other day, this nice little guy here. And I've only played it. Well, I played it at my new gig the other day, but it's got a beautiful sound so far. So I've only had a couple days with it. So I'm going to see how that goes because it's small. So I need something small that I can wrap my arm around. So I'm pretty excited about that. And then the thing that's probably the most special to me is my dad had a Gibson that he bought in 1964. And it wasn't an expensive guitar when he bought it. It's an L series, and that's mine. So I love that guitar, of course, because it was his, and it's got a really nice warm sound. And yeah, when I play that one, it just it sounds like Dad, right? So, yeah.
That's pretty cool. And I guess what sort of microphones you guys using? Is it just you singing, or do you have a couple other guys? Background?
Yeah, well, no, Tom and I both sing. They're just, I think they're just Shure microphones. I don't take that. That's not my bag. I don't take care of that stuff.
Is he also in charge of the amps too?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not my deal.
All right. Yeah, I'm the one that's up front right there. I'm trying to represent that sort of thing too. So.
Oh yeah. You need that. Oh, there's fun. Yeah, I got a Rode mic here, but that's a recording mic. Yeah.
That's more recording. Okay.
Yeah, that's a recording mic. Yeah, the other stuff's upstairs. Marshall, I got a Marshall here. Godin, Taylor.
Is this where you store, or is this also where you guys jam at times to practice?
I usually just record in here. It's too small to kind of play. But if there's just a couple of us, we'll sit and play in here. Yeah. So we got these sound panels. My other son, who is, I got three sons and a girl. So the second oldest son is, he has a recording degree that he got a couple years ago. And so he works as a producer in Edmonton. He works at a Riverdale Recorders. And he actually just got a $25,000 grant. Was that last fall? I know. It's like, holy shit, man. To record an album. And so when was that? January, he spent lots of time recording that, which is going to be fabulous. I don't know when he's going to release it because he's going to get vinyl. So, it's all kind of in the hands of how long that's going to take. to get the vinyl out. But his name is Sean Davis Newton. And then he also runs a music blog there, which is Cups and Cakes. And so he travels out to festivals and does interviews and all kinds of stuff as well. So like kind of everybody in my house, like we're all musicians. My daughter too, she's the youngest, she's 15, and she's also an excellent musician. So
it runs in the family, that sort of thing.
Yeah, kind of.
That's pretty good. And each one of them got their own dreams and aspirations. So,
yep.
Good luck to them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good.
Let's see. All right. So now we'll talk for a good hour and 15 minutes right here. So let's jump into some fun questions. So,
alrighty.
What is your favorite food?
Chips.
A particular brand or?
Old Dutch.
Old Dutch?
Old Dutch potato chips with dip.
We'll say not Lay's or the Doritos?
Ooh, no. Oh, Lay's. Lay's are my favorite. Oh, actually, Cool Ranch Doritos. I do like those.
Do you?
I do.
I think they were doing like a Cool Ranch sort of a taco-shaped. I forget what it was. It was at Taco Bell, and I don't know if it was like meant to be those taco shells they made out of like the Cool Ranch Dorito chips, for instance.
Oh, okay. Okay. No, Cool Ranch Doritos. I do really like those.
Those are okay, I would say. I think, though, I like the nacho cheese a little bit more because when you get them on your fingers, too, you're able to just lick them out afterwards. So
I always have to say to the kids, like, there'll be kids who come into my guitar class, and he'll be like, can I just eat my chips? Well, you want to eat your taco chips while you're playing my guitars? So you're going to, like, dip them in your Doritos and then lick your fingers and then play my guitars? No.
Yeah, I would understand. It'd be like, absolutely not.
If it's your guitar, I don't care. Do whatever you want. But
not mine.
Not mine.
Not mine. All right, fair enough. And what are your favorite drinks? Name one alcoholic and then one non-alcoholic.
Dr. Pepper.
You're a doctor too.
I'm a pepper.
I think it was. I think it was another interview. I think it was recently, and he said he was real big into Dr. Pepper too. So we know the trust me, I'm a doctor sort of thing.
Yeah.
So.
When I was a kid, I had a T-shirt that said "I'm a pepper" on it, which goes back a long ways. And alcoholic, oh well, I'm not too picky. I like gin and tonic. I like beer. Hurricanes.
The Hurricanes. It's everything but the kitchen sink. So I mean, you can't go wrong with it. I mean, like I said, it's everything but the kitchen sink.
Pretty much.
Actually, no, I think that was the one that gave me the most buzz when I was down in New Orleans. I had, like, everything else was drinking too. I would say that was the most beer. Not just Hurricanes, because I had actually a couple more beers afterwards. But that was probably the most intake of alcohol I had just from those Hurricanes alone.
Find when we go to the States and it's like, this beer is pretty light. This is pretty watery beer here in the States because it has less alcohol, I think, than Canadian beer mostly. So
that would be a Coors Light, actually.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I think so. That's what I want to say. I don't know any other beers, but I know Bavarian beer, which is actually very good, and I would say that was the best beer I ever had. That one doesn't have like a whole lot of alcohol in it, but it's still like pretty good. And I also put it in those giant mugs. You see, like at the Hofbräu House and everything too. And obviously, when you drink a good chunk of that, you'll still feel a buzz and everything afterwards. But strongly recommend German beers.
Okay. Oh, wow. Or movies with a strong tie to music. Almost Famous is one of my very favorite movies. I just showed my older kids High Fidelity, or my younger kids High Fidelity the other day with John Cusack and his giant record collection. La La Land, of course, I loved. I like musicals, I do. I don't know. Yeah. Those are some I can think of off the top of my head.
I was going to say, you sound like you would love Wicked if it ever came to
Saskatoon.
Yeah,
I've seen Wicked. Yeah, I've seen it. Okay. Yeah, I like it. Yeah. Yeah.
I have not actually seen that. In fact, some of the plays I got to see, it's not really musicals. It's more of like strictly your stage and theater and just kind of playing it out. Then it's just like small music to kind of like show maybe intermissions, but I think also like changing scenes, if you know what I mean. So.
Yeah. The Book of Mormon we saw when we were in New York. That was hilarious. That was really fun.
I I think I remember the satire show South Park kind of doing a little Book of Mormon little skit on it. I'm assuming it was Book of Mormon, but regardless, they're still kind of ripping on Mormonism and everything else, even though the people were like real chilled and everything too. It's like, why are you making fun of them? I mean, these people are chilled, so just let them do what they want. I don't know. So, all right. And which celebrity, living or deceased, would you love to meet?
I got two. Deceased, John Lennon. Living, Elvis Costello. I love Elvis Costello.
He's still around. How old is he right now?
Yeah. He's one of my favorite musicians, Elvis Costello. Yeah.
I was going to say, how old is he? Is he up in his 70s or 80s?
Nah, he's not that old. He's probably, I don't know, I think he's in his 60s maybe. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I've seen him, have I only seen him once in concert? I think just once. He was great. Yeah.
I'll say that one a good bit, so that one was a fun song to play. And, that's the only one I know from him. I think my dad was really into him. And I think every now and again, if he is on the radio, I think he'll be like, oh, there's Elvis Costello, that sort of thing. So,
no, I love Elvis Costello. And he's another guy, too, who's kind of moved genres, you know, depending on collaborations or whatever he's doing. Like, he had a great one with Alan Toussaint. You know, it had that nice kind of New Orleans feel, and Burt Bacharach, and who was the last one? Oh, with The Roots, he had one. So, like, lots of collaborations there, too.
That's pretty good. So it shows that he's expanding his background, so to speak.
Oh, yeah.
So that's good to hear. All right, and the last one, what is currently your favorite song?
I just started listening to Alison Russell's new stuff, The Returner, which is a new song for her. And I quite like that a lot. So I guess I would say that.
This is a recent song, or is this...
Yeah.
This has come out like this year, or was it like last year?
No, like recently, like the last few weeks.
Oh, really? Is that?
Yeah.
It's only that old. Well, okay, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. And I think, like, I like Alison Russell a lot. I like that she's Canadian. I like that she's French. And I like, too, her story. I like her story of, like, she's been through some stuff, you know? But I also like there's a real, especially with that particular song, there's a real positive vibe to it. So I appreciate that.
She writes some pretty deep lyrics, including like this song.
Yeah.
I see. All right, good choice. All right. So Jackie, we're nearing the end of my podcast right here. We're actually down to the last question, but did you have any questions for me or any final words you want to say before we jump into it?
Well, I would ask you, what made you start doing this?
Let's see. Well, when it was happening, that was when COVID was kind of running rampant. Let's see. It was definitely 2021. I think I've always seen about podcasting, but I always jumped on it real late because I was thinking, like, I don't know, is it something like instruction videos or is it just guys sitting down having conversations? And that's what I found out. It was just kind of doing this, just having conversations, just trying to get to know people, that sort of thing. Sticking within a particular niche, but then you also try to, like, maybe spice it up, try to throw some comedy in there at times, or try to maybe also get to know people as well as, like, maybe some things, like, in terms of, like, food, drinks, some guilty pleasures, that sort of thing, or something they indulge in. So something like that. And so I thought that would be pretty fun. And then one day I just tried it with a friend of mine who happened to be a successful drummer in Nashville, believe it or not. And that's how All Music Matters and I was born. After that, it was mostly drummers. I had a couple of guitar players. And as I said earlier, with Billy Price and Jimmy Adler, they've been some of my higher ones, I should say, or the ones who have a very prestigious career. So and now recently, after interviewing Vox and Sticks, and now Vox and Guests also, because that's what their interview little podcast thing is too.
Right.
As well as joining their group, because you saw me on Band Together, their little Facebook page.
Yeah.
So now we kind of expanded a little bit. Now we're into indie musicians and stuff like that too. So
that's awesome. No, I think you do a great job.
Thank you. So I try. I mean, I admit I little socially awkward too. So maybe it was also to help with my little introverted side as well, try to at least interact with people too.
Yeah.
Because I actually did a little stint in sales, and that did not go well. So.
Oh, God, that wouldn't be for me. Although teaching is a lot like sales some days, I tell you.
Yeah, that's what I was too. It's almost like take it or leave it, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess, did you have anything else, or?
No, not that I can think of, honestly.
I'm going to say it's just going to come later and be like, oh, I should have asked him that
I
one.
know.
It always happens. I know, it always happens, but it's okay. So for the last question right here, it's one I always like to ask, because given what COVID has done, I think people need some sort of hope out there, both for regular people and also for musicians too. So what sort of message of hope could you give to musicians and people out there?
Well, I mean, it's like anybody. I mean, you're not alone, right? I think that everybody feels alone sometimes. And if you don't, you're lying, right? Yeah, and music and working in the arts, you're making yourself so vulnerable, right? You're putting yourself in a position where it's really easy to feel like somebody is going to be critical of who you are. So if they're critical of your music, or if they're critical of your work, it's like they're critical of you. And so it's really hard to learn not to take it personally, which, I'm still working on. Being a teacher has helped with that. But yeah, I mean, so I think it's good to engage with as many people as you can, engage with other musicians, just engage with people. Because it's really easy to stay home all the time. And I think that's something that has come out of COVID. It's like, no, I don't want to go out. I don't want to go out. I don't want to see anybody. But I know for myself, I feel better if I do. Just get out. Just go to the store. Just go see somebody. Just, get in the car. And that'll help.
Get out of your comfort zone, as they like to say. So
the couch. Get my butt off the couch. That helps.
And quit staying glued to the TV too. So yeah. Spoken like a true prodigy. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, very good. And thank you so much, Jackie.
Well, thanks so much, Brian. I really appreciate your time.
No worries. And I guess since we're near the end of my podcast right here, I guess, did you have any final shout outs or any final words you want to say before we close?
I don't know. Thanks again. I don't know. Yeah, I just appreciate you taking the time.
We'll give a shout out to all the subscribers and all people who follow us. We'll do it like that. Since the list will be pretty extensive too. So.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. Sounds good. And I guess how else can people reach you outside of you're on Linktree, and I guess what else do you use?
Linktree, everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, Threads now, like I needed that. TikTok, although I don't have many TikToks up. I do have some though. So, work
TikTok's
in progress. Twitter, yeah.
I don't know about Twitter anymore. I think I'm backing away from that now. So,
I think that's probably a good idea.
Good luck. I'll just say that. Good luck.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Everyone, I guess today was Jackie Kroczynski, hailing from North Battleford, right? Is that what you said?
North Battleford, yeah.
All right. I was almost going to say Saskatoon again, but about an hour outside of Saskatoon. So she's in the Saskatchewan area. If you guys see her in your neck of the woods, whenever she does start traveling, I guess, you guys have any plans for this year?
No. Well, we'll see. Next gig, when do we have next? Well, when we come back from New Orleans. I hope to get some open mics there, too, while I'm there.
Yeah.
But in Saskatoon, the 26th of August, we've got that one ready to play that. So
sounds good. And for anyone in New Orleans who sees this video, make sure you go hit her up and everything, too. And make sure you follow her on the socials. So, Jackie, thank you again so much for coming on. Stay safe.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Take care.